Alright, just a quick update on where I am with this project so far. So, I have identified what this pin and this pin go to, the first two pins. Now, if you remember, this pin here is continuous with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This pin here, which the sixth pin in, which accounts for all of the ground planes on the actual ribbon up here. Yeah, such as this big one right here. Now, when you follow those two traces, you get pin 1, which commons along this track here, and then pin 2, which actually comes in through this via here, carries over to this via, and then travels all along to these two vias, and terminates at these two vias. Now, if we go to those respective vias on the other side, what we get, these two vias here going up, and then they split around these two vias. And if we actually rotate this just a little bit, alright, so now here we are on the other side, and we can see the first two vias here. Actually, they're actually the last two. These are the two that it terminated at. And they both go up and split into two traces, going up to the LCD to, to this here, this trace here, and this trace here. The one in the middle, if we remember from the previous video, went to this trace running along down here to this via going to pin 1 on the connector. Now, if we carry this over, we end up with these two traces here along the second pin line, which go up to the other side of the same chip. Let me get the light right. There we go. Going into this connector, or this pin here to the chip, and this pin here to the chip. This middle one, once again, goes to pin 1 down here where it joins at this T. Oh, let me bring that more in shot for you. Where it joins at this T, and goes over to the other chip, which when we go that way, we see two more vias on the same trace going up and splitting to go into the next chip. Same thing. This one right here is the middle connection to the first pin. Both of these on surrounding it are the outside pin, or outside the second pin. And this chip also has the same thing on the other side. Bring my pointer in. So this pin right here goes to pin 1, and these two go to pin 2. And you can see there are vias here for pin 2, and the middle trace going to pin 1. Now, neither of these pins actually seem to go into the vertical chip. Now you can actually follow this trace here, which goes all the way to the second pin. But, like I said, none of them actually seem to be going to the vertical chip, which is over here. I have not been able to comfortably identify the power rails for that one, and I'm going to need to be able to identify it if I want any chance at all of having this thing driven. I need to at least provide power to it in order for it to connect the matrices together. Now, this right here is a shot I think is really important, because you see, there's actually a lot of vacant space up here between the two chips, and a lot of pins that seem to go to them. Well, okay, you can't really pick it up that well, but trust me, each of these are individual pads on the glass as if another chip could be bonded to it, and they all seem to terminate to these leads going nowhere. And you can see right here, pin 2 and pin 2, and this is where it starts to split off between the two chips. I think that pin 1 and pin 2 on the connector down here are likely to be power and ground for those chips. Now, that does kind of beg the question, though, why have all these ground planes? I'm thinking that what they're probably doing is using, because of how long these traces are, they're probably using these ground planes to provide capacitance in order to reduce the signal distortion as it travels. Now, there are still a few curiosities that I'm trying to work out. For example, now, look, if you take a look here, you can see, where's my pointer? There it is. These two connections here at the end, which we know don't actually go anywhere, but if we go here, you can see that both of those actually terminate together in this little U right here. But then immediately next to it is one of the purported power pins, which again is not very plainly visible here. Actually, there we go. Okay, so you can see now pretty well the U right here where they terminate, and then immediately next to it is the via for one of those power pins. And as we follow that up here to the screen, we can see where it goes into the chip. You can see this little itty bitty trace coming off of that pad and buggering off who even knows where. And I find that kind of weird because I actually don't see that happening anywhere else. Not on this chip or even on this one. So I don't know where that power pad is going. Now there is a possibility that it's happening over here on the vertical chip. Oh, hold on, let me get the light better. There is a possibility that that is happening over here on the vertical chip, but I have not been able to identify enough of what's going on with it. Let me make that a little clearer for you. Yeah, you can actually see really clearly all the pads on it now. And then as we go up this way, you can, oh wow, that's the clearest you've ever seen the traces. To give you all an idea of how small these traces are, I'm about to touch it with the tip of a ballpoint pen. That's why the microscope is here. So, with no idea whatsoever what that one trace is doing, where it's going towards, and what it's for, I think I'm still going to plow ahead with it. Which is actually something to mention. You might have noticed in the last part, but I'll mention it anyways. This trace that buggers off up there, there are no more chips this way. There's just metal shielding. There's nothing when you flip it over because it would be on this side of the display over here, and there's nothing there. So I really don't actually even know what it's for. Might not be for anything, honestly. In fact, actually, you know what? We can kind of see where it buggers off towards. Well, okay. I can kind of see it. You can't. Yeah, a little bit. It's not as great as it is through the actual... It's not as great as what it would be through the actual microscope lens. Cameras kind of take from it a little bit, but if you look, you can see that trace right there.